First Street, something like that. Waiting for the bus to go to work. Good morning, everybody. With this guy walking on the street with a big old stick. Crazy, right? This is what happens on First in Yakima, First Street. I'm just waiting for the bus. I'm delivering some crutches to my buddy because he hurt himself. And he went to go see the doctor, and they didn't even give him crutches. What kind of medical system are we? When I went to the doctors on the res, when I hurt my leg, they gave me crutches. They didn't give him any. Like, stab your foot, but walk back home. Anyway, I got crutches for him. Bought them for like $10. Anyhow, so yesterday we were talking about the establishment of the not knowing. How every one of our lives started with not knowing. Kind of makes us feel powerless a little bit, doesn't it? Because honestly, when you get down to it, don't get me wrong, I'll give you a little example. So when my niece passed away, my sister asked me to officiate the funeral, and of course I obliged. Of course, it's my niece. She was only 21. She was killed by a drunk driver. Squished her with a car. Anyhow, let me see that. You see that? That's here. There's a lady pushing a cart. Kind of dressed a little bit wild, right? Just wild. A carnival. Anyway. So my niece was killed. I was asked to officiate the funeral, and I headed down there. I got on the train. Actually, I got on the train. I got on the train to go down there. I got on the train, and so anyway. Just lost the train of thought there. Anyway, got on the train to go down there and see my niece. And as I was on the train, I was reading my Bible. I was actually reading the Bible. And as I was reading the Bible, these ladies next to me, they were across the aisle on the train, and they said to me, "Oh, you read the Bible?" I said, "Oh yeah." So they were Catholics, so we got into a discussion. So then somehow the discussion of evolution came up. Okay. And they asked me, somehow if I believed in evolution. That's what they asked me. Did I believe in evolution? And I was like, well, let me ask you something. And I wasn't trying to answer a question with a question. I just knew the answer already. I think one of the best ones that Jesus had was when they asked him, what authority he did that by. Now, if you really look at it, if you really read that, because we kind of glaze over it because if you grew up in Sunday school, you're inundated with the stories, and they turn the true stories into kids' stories. Like, oh, this is for kids because who can really? I shouldn't use that voice, but who really believes the story because who's gonna knock down the giant with a stone and who's gonna, So they use it for kids' stories to get you past all that, to think that you read the Old Testament, to get you in the New Testament when you become an adult and stay there. But no. Those stories aren't kids' stories. They're not kids' stories to be looked at like that. Anyhow. So, reading the Word of God, they asked him by what authority. So when you look at that, he actually, they recognize it as an authority. Hello, folks. They recognize it as an authority. By whose authority? And you hear people, you can hear their language. If you really listen, you can hear it. when they say, I don't know if I should say this, I always tell people, well, then shut up. If you don't know what you're saying, I don't want to hear from you. You see what I'm saying? And some people, I know it's wrong, but you see what I'm saying? So the words that leave our mouths tell us everything. Anyway, so they said, but what authority do you do these things? And he said to them, okay, I'll ask you one question, which if you can answer me, I'll tell you by what authority. And he said to them, he said, John's, was it from heaven or of men? Now here's the thing, folks, because John and Jesus represented the exact same thing. So had he have told them, if they couldn't get John's, they wouldn't get his either. So they wouldn't have heard what authority he had. That's basically what he was saying. He already knew the answer for them. So when these ladies asked me that, and I asked them this question, I already knew the answer. So when I asked them about evolution, I said, okay, because you believe in evolution, which is cool, you have that right to believe whatever you want. I said, where did you obtain your information? And they said, books. And I was really? So you base everything from books that man wrote. Well, hello. The Bible's the same thing. I'm basing everything I believe on what man wrote. But then they told me this with the conviction. They said, but there's proof. And I was like, what? They said, yeah, there is proof. I said, really? Can I ask you, were you there when they dug up this proof? Were you there when they studied this proof? And their immediate answer was, well, no. I said, there you go. So you weren't there when they dug up this proof. You weren't there when they studied this proof, yet you're taking it by faith. What they're saying is true. And then I told them, I said, well, me too. And they were stunned. They were literally stunned. Just like I shared with you yesterday about the I don't know. You can't dispel that. I don't care who you are. You cannot dispel anything and if you can, make a video. Give me the link and I'll watch. But I guarantee you can't. And it's not for me to be right. It's not for me to be more than. It's not for me to be greater than or smarter than or all those things. It's not any of that. It's just to say, okay, you're not as we as a people are not as powerful as we think we are. We as a people are not as great as we think we are. We as a people are not as in control as we think we are. And that's what's scary for us. You see? This is why stubbornness, rebellion, and all those things, we think we have some sort of power in that, and we don't. Believe me, we don't. We just think we do. Okay, going back to this now. So when I pointed that out, the ladies totally flipped the script. They were like, well, of course you should question everything, even the Bible. Most of you who ever purchased a car, purchased a home, you did not read the fine print and you were suckered. Think about that. Any contract, any agreement, any license, anything you sign, you need to read the fine print. Okay? And that's called investigating. Now, why is it on the earth, and after we learn the first time, when we get suckered in, we learn and we take the fine print or we question, why is it the temporary life on the earth we take serious with a signature that we put down? Yet when it comes to our forever, we take somebody else's word for it. Even the one that says there isn't going to be. Because I'll tell you something. Even in the not forever, there's still a forever. It's a not forever. Even in the unbelief, there's a belief. There's a believe in not believing. So, You have to ask yourselves that. It's time to investigate. It's time to look into things deeper. Okay. So going back to this, here's the narrative you were given, and everybody still gives to this day. That somehow man disobeyed God. Okay. That somehow man got himself in trouble. And God was like, oops, I better do something about this. So he sent someone to help man from his destructive stuff. And it's up to him to want it or not. That's not true. None of that is true. I'm going to tell you that right now. None of that is true. And like I said before, I can prove it. And that's going to scare a lot of church folk, a lot of religious folk, a lot of Catholics, a lot of Protestants, a lot of Presbyterians. See, because man somehow believes that God is more God when he believes in it. Okay? That sun does not need to rise for me to acknowledge it being the sun. Or it doesn't need to set and see me set, watch it set, for it to be a setting sun. It'll rise and set like it's supposed to. The stars, same thing. The mountains, same thing. I don't need to acknowledge a tree for a tree to be a tree. So really, the trees don't need my permission to be what they are. If you understand what I'm saying. If you get what I'm saying. Okay? Which basically means this. All that transpires, all that happens. We don't need to be here for it to be done. That was one of my first cars right there. That was one of my first cars, piece of junk. Anyway. So here we are. And it shows how powerless, how indecisive, how, you know what I mean? We are. Oh, here comes the bus. I gotta quit this off for a second. I will get into this later. Thank you for listening to whoever listens. God bless, and we'll talk to you later.